Hey, hello. Welcome to episode number 111 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choit. What's up? If you're new here, what I do is interview people from all walks of life, most often comedians and other artists about their lives and careers. It's casual conversation, but I also ask everyone to highlight the people they love, who they admire, who influenced them, inspired them, and or supported them. For more, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's peoplewelovepodcast.com. And the Instagram handle is at People We Love Podcast. And you can find me on Instagram as well, at Adam Choit, if you want to follow me. And it's the same on Twitter, at Adam Choit. And please remember to tap subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. And of course, 5-star positive reviews on iTunes, Apple Podcasts are greatly appreciated as well. So, today's guest is comedian Kyle Ruff. From Ohio to college in northern Michigan to Montana, and finally to Steamboat Springs, Colorado, Kyle's journey has taken him from class clown to comedian and comedy show producer. Along the way, he discovered Ron Paul and eventually comedian and podcaster Robbie the Fire Bernstein, who Kyle's really enjoyed getting to know better while doing a few shows together. But we cover a lot, so let's just get started. Here's Kyle Ruff. All right, so it's good to see you today, Kyle Ruff. Thank you for joining me on Zoom here.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, man.
Oh,
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you holding up during whatever the year is? That's what I ask people. Whatever the current year is.
Whatever. I mean, there is no time anymore with COVID.
That's what I feel like.
Who knows what day or time it is? It could be the future for all I know. I'm good. I'm chilling. Yesterday was my birthday, and someone gave me some whiskey, so I got some whiskey right here.
There you go. Happy birthday. Cheers.
Well, thank you, sir. Yeah, digital cheers. Are you drinking? What is that? Oh, that's straight vodka, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah. H2O. It's a new brand of vodka.
Oh, wow. Sounds fancy. Huh?
Yeah, it's from overseas.
Only the finest imports.
It has a nice logo on the bottle. Yeah, no, that's good for sure to hear.
That's good. And also today in Steamboat Springs, where I'm at, they just today at 2:00 lifted all the masks mandates. Finally,
that's
so
good.
We're like open. I went to a restaurant and I had a server who didn't have a mask on for the first time in over a year. It was bizarre. So it was good. That made me just stoked, happy to be alive right now. You know.
Did you and the server feel like this was bizarre, or this was like, this was a good thing we're back to like normal? Like it was, did you guys feel happier than normal? You had a restaurant pre all this stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean,
extra happiness.
Exact. All of the staff was like glowing. They were like, the manager came by and he was like, I was talking to my staff and I could actually see them smile at me when I said something. He was like, you could see it in his eyes. He was so excited. It was awesome. It was a cool moment. Just that little thing that happened earlier.
No, that is cool. When I order and I make all my substitutes and additions, that's when reality will set back in for them. And it'll be back to work vibes.
Like, oh, that's right. You're still an asshole. Yeah. Yeah. You see my face now while I talk.
Yeah. We can get into your life a little bit and talk about like where you were born and raised. I kind of ask people even their earliest memories, and you can tell me a little bit about your background and family and whatnot. Now, what I was actually doing was looking at, I don't know if you grew up in Steamboat Springs or not, but I was looking at pictures of that place. It looks like the inside of a snow globe.
It's pretty nice. Yeah.
It's just it looks small, pretty small. It's pretty small, but it looks like a super nice, just picturesque town. Like it's a snow globe.
Oh yeah, man. It's beautiful. It's definitely a lot better looking than where I actually grew up, which is in Ohio. But I've been out here on and off for about, what year is it? I guess 7 years. Go give or take. I'll just briefly, we'll get through the whole story obviously at some point, but
I want to go back to the Ohio days, even though I was picturing Christmas morning inside the snow globe, young Kyle, but that wasn't the case.
So I was sitting in a cornfield in Ohio. That was the Christmas snow globe.
Yeah. Tell me about Ohio when you were like 4, 5, 6 and your family and all that.
Yeah. So I grew up there in Northwest Ohio. It's close to like the Ohio-Michigan border so Toledo is like kind of like right up on the border, which is like a shitty Detroit that's south of Detroit, and which is saying something because Detroit is a shithole. But if you go a little farther, there's a town called Bowling Green, which is like a college town. And where I grew up was basically the farm fields in between the two. So small school, small town. It's funny because I have a buddy from Nebraska, and my friends give him so much shit. They're like, "Oh, you're like a country boy from Nebraska, and like you like working the farm." But he's actually from Omaha, which is like a real big city. But no one ever gives me shit about being from Ohio, even though my high school was so small. I graduated with a class of about 100 people, and that was 4 small towns put together made one high school of 100 people a class.
It's just the associate. I was going to say it's just the associations people have with like Omaha versus Ohio. Like it makes it seem, X amount more country or rural or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Ohio, I don't know. There's a weird internet trend to shit on Ohio right now, which is fine. I don't know. I don't really care about Ohio that much.
I think there's an internet trend to shit on everything. That's not what you are.
That's true. That's true.
There's always that.
I'm still recovering from the Kyle monster stuff. I still get that shit all the time. That came out of left field. You know what I'm talking about?
No, what's that? What's that?
Just all the memes about how people named Kyle love to drink Monster energy drinks and
and
shit. Yeah. Which I'll tell you right now, on behalf of Kyle's, Red Bull is better than Monster. I'm just saying it. It's
okay. It was specifically Monster, not just any energy.
Specifically Monster, yeah.
But all Kyles definitely drink energy drinks.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Okay. I thought what's wrong with that meme? They went really specific. That's kind of impressive in a way, I guess.
I don't know if it was actually good or bad for Monster in the long run, but
maybe not good for Kyle's, I guess.
Definitely not good for Kyle's.
That stuff is poison.
Yeah, no. I probably drink too much coffee, but I only drink
Me too.
Red Bull like when I'm on a road trip. Like I had some driving back from Denver last night, coming back from the gig with Robbie. But anyways, more about me. What's important, me and my life. So grew up in Ohio, small town stuff. Nothing too exciting.
You have siblings?
And I got one brother. He's 2 years older than me. He went to Cincinnati for school and never left. He's still down there. He's an engineer. He went for like an engineering degree. Got like a master's in it, so he was in school forever and just liked it, never left. And I moved down there after college and lived next door to him for a couple of years, but that's later in the story.
Sure.
So yeah, in high school, always like being the class clown, always like being getting into trouble and being an asshole and that kind of thing.
What about when you were even younger? Were you class clown and an asshole from ages 5 through 14?
Oh God, you even worse.
You got even more skilled at it as you grew up, perhaps.
You refine it a little bit. It's if you're trying to be the funny kid in school when you're in like second grade, you're mostly just like the Tasmanian devil running around with fart jokes and throwing.
And that was you.
And that was me.
And that's always been you.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm not quite as over the top high energy as I used to be, but yeah, it's that's always kind of been my thing. I just always love making people laugh. My dad was a really funny guy, and I always wanted to kind of be like that. And I loved when I was a kid, I really wanted to be an actor. Was always my thing. I loved watching like comedy movies. A big influence on me was Jim Carrey, specifically When Nature Calls, which is not exactly a kid's movie. Like there are some parts that I didn't get, but he was so animated and goofy. I just loved it. I actually, I can't remember if it was first or second grade. It was a recess, and I was standing on top of the monkey bars, talking out of my butt, like Ace Ventura, doing the like, oh, you know what I'm talking about? And this fucking narc kid named Eric Androvich, I'll never forgive him for this. He told the teacher that I was talking out of my butt, and they were like, oh, you can't talk out of his butt. And so they called my parents. I got in trouble. And my punishment was that I wasn't allowed to watch Ace Ventura for a whole year.
Whoa, that's too long.
I was, when I say I was devastated, I mean, I was devastated.
Dude,
It's
your
like the worst
parents,
thing that ever happened.
your parents, they pointed you in the wrong direction.
Yeah, right?
They should have done like reverse. Yeah, no, it was gonna happen
It
anyway.
was going to happen.
It's inevitable. But what they did, like, I don't know, they probably on some level you got that extra drive to be even more into comedy, subversive comedy, whatever the case may be.
Could be. Or it
I'm
just made me want to.
psychoanalyzing.
Yes. Yeah. It's probably, I mean, you're right, but maybe that's my, why I never liked authority after that. That was my libertarian.
It's all
instincts.
connected. It's all connected. That's what
It's all coming together.
I think. I think all these types of things in our lives are connected. I mean, I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe
Yeah.
more so if you recognize the connections. If you recognize the connection, it's a real connection. I don't know. I'm believing in that less and less coincidences each day. I don't know. It's like kind of where I'm like headed a little bit.
I'll buy it. Yeah. I don't know.
It's a
I
more
mean,
fun way to live. I will say that when you're constantly trying to make connections between events and people and things that have happened and are happening in my life and things around me.
Sure. Yeah. It's always more interesting to think about something in depth than to be like, oh, I don't know. And then just move on, why not?
Yeah, but are most people like that? I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe most people are not like that, but we can get more into that later, maybe. But
again, what's important? Me. Let's come back to me.
Back to fart jokes and elementary school. No, what else? Were you into sports or music, or were you a good student? Like, what else besides being the class clown? Or was that pretty much your primary role?
Well, I mean, I always liked sports. Even though I was always the smallest kid. I'm not a large person. I'm only about 5'6", and not even a big frame, but I was always a good athlete. And so I played all the sports. I played football. I wrestled a lot. I was actually good at wrestling, and I quit too early, which was a mistake, but what can you do? And yeah, I always did that. I was never that into music. I was into theater. I did a lot of theater as a kid. A couple of times I had to do theater things where I had to sing on stage, and I hated it. I never liked it.
Were you not a good singer, or what was it?
No, I'm an okay singer. I remember as a kid, I had a really high singing voice, and I was kind of embarrassed about it. And so like I'd go to auditions, and they'd be like, "Wow, like you have a great voice," and I'd be like, "No, I don't." I'd be like I don't want to sing. Like that was terrible. Or I wouldn't do it. But I did do like choir and stuff in high school. I was in a couple bands in high school, but they were mostly just like a dick around kind of thing.
Making noise.
Yeah, it was just me. Like it was basically me being a dumb entertainer running around on stage with a guitar and some drums in the background. So it was fun. But I never was like really serious about music. I just always liked it.
Sounds like you like performing. I was going to say, it sounds like you just like performing and entertaining people, making them laugh, and you have this energy and that you want to like get out or something like that. It seems like.
Yeah, that's a very nice way of saying, Kyle, you're an attention whore, which is true. Yeah, that's more.
Yeah, well, it could be more than one thing.
That's true. Yeah, more than one thing can be true. But I was a pretty good student too. I was in all the honors classes and shit, and tested well. So my parents were always like, "You're going to college. You have to go to college." I ended up going to school at Northern Michigan University, which is for you. I know you're a Californian, so you probably.
I was going to say cold.
Well, you got that part right. It's definitely cold. But Michigan. Do you know where the UP is? Have you ever heard the phrase the UP?
Maybe not.
Okay, so Michigan is split in two, right? There's the Lower Peninsula and the Upper Peninsula, and that's the UP, is what they call it. And so the Upper Peninsula, it's a big piece of land, but it's pretty much empty. It was just like mining and shit was the industry there forever. So it's just like a big peninsula of just woods right on Lake Superior, and it's beautiful up there. And that's where I went to college. There's a town called Marquette. If you've heard of like Marquette University,
right?
People know that from like basketball. That's actually in Milwaukee. It's not in Marquette. Marquette is at Northern Michigan University. And I had applied there with a friend of mine from high school, and we both got in. And so I was like, I'm gonna go to the place that I know somebody at. And so I went up there, and it was awesome, beautiful town. I played rugby. I met one of my best friends, lifelong friend I still live with here in Steamboat. We played rugby together up there. And
what's his name?
His name is Reed. Shout out to Reed Belmonte. He's you might know him from the Steamboat Comedy Podcast, which is my podcast. He's a funny guy. We actually in college one time, because he's a really good guitar player, we opened for a friend's band as Tenacious D at a Halloween party. And
Nice.
He was Kyle Gass, and he like shaved his head like the horseshoe, and then I was Jack Black and had like the soul patch, and we did a bunch of Tenacious D songs.
That's great. That's cool. That's cool, and just like perfectly appropriate, like for Halloween. You're in costume. It's like, are they a real tribute band? Does it even matter? They could be. Was everyone come up to you after being like, you guys could be a real tribute band. You guys can make money doing this. You guys could be a real tribute band or something like that.
Yes, everybody went up there. They're like, you could actually probably like do that, like get gigs. And I was like, yeah, well, the only thing is I can play a very small amount of guitar now, and I can play none then. And so Reed just played guitar, and I had a Guitar Hero guitar, and I just pretend to play that.
That's funny. That's almost just as funny and as good. And right? For sure.
Yeah. So I've joked around with him before about we should dust off. I'm like, because we called it Tenacious Reed instead of Tenacious D. I'm like, dude, the Reed needs to ride again, man. Tenacious Reed needs to ride again, but he's a little more reluctant than I am.
Is he a comic, also a comedian?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll get more in detail, like kind of about it, I guess, in a second. But
your journey into comedy. You can
journey into comedy. Yeah, is an interesting one. I have a little different story than probably a lot of people do. But I was like, Reed, you need to move here. You need to move back here and do comedy with me. And he was like, I'm in. I was like, fuck yeah. That's probably about a third of all the comedians we have here are people that I'm just like, you're my friend and I think you're funny, so I'm gonna make you do stand up now. They're like, okay, I guess.
Dude, that's great. Yeah, so you have your own show, Steamboat Comedy, and I was kind of checking that out before we started recording this as well. That's cool. Yeah, tell me about I guess the journey from college and after college, and how comedy and just like pushing other people into comedy, how that all came together, and we'll get into I'm sure some of the political stuff along the way. I'll let you kind of tell your journey.
Yeah, well, the political stuff, I was really apolitical until basically the end of college, just kind of like off YouTube things. Like Ron Paul on YouTube was a big influence.
Yeah, like me.
Yeah, of like everybody. And then so after college, I graduated. I actually I probably would have stayed in Marquette, but I got right before I graduated, I got a DUI and wrecked my car, which is obviously
not ideal.
Not ideal. Not a great move. Would not recommend it. And so when I graduated, I basically had no money, and I didn't have like a way to get around.
Were you okay though? And was that no one got hurt or anything like that?
No one got hurt. Thank God. It was completely clean. There was a guy in the car with me. He was fine. I was good. We weren't going very fast. It was just like, it was a bizarre thing. I was just going from like the bar to like his house, like a couple blocks down.
Yeah, like the cliche, like they say, like all the 5 minutes from your home or whatever.
Yeah, I was just going to get a carton of milk or whatever people
say.
But I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. It just hit me, and I just passed out like instantly.
Dude, whoa!
And then hit a telephone pole.
Whoa!
Yeah, it was scary.
I bet. Damn.
And I've never experienced anything like that before or after. So I don't know what the deal was with it. Like I don't like, even if I get really drunk, it's very rare for me to just fall asleep. So it was a strange experience, but
driving is hypnotic. It's sort of like you can get very low. It lulls you to sleep. Like I'll be driving home and not having had a drink all day at night, and I'll feel myself getting tired, and I'll get home and I'll be up for another like 4 hours doing shit, like moving around. But like just sitting there makes you tired and staring in the same direction, and you're not really able to move at all. being
Yeah.
sedentary makes you tired.
Yeah, it makes sense. So,
Plus alcohol.
yeah, plus alcohol. I was gonna say, like, all the hundreds of times I drove drunk after that, I never had it again. But I don't do that anymore.
Yeah,
I learned that lesson the hard way.
yeah. Are you you're talking about that joke working on stage?
It's what I've thought of. But
Yeah,
it's
it's better in like a one-on-one conversation. Yeah. Is that like? Well, we'll get into all of it, but that's what. How do you decide what's a tweet, what's a stand-up joke, what's a this and what's a that? But yeah, I'll let you go continue on the
okay. Yeah,
on the journey.
I'll get to the
political and the comedy and all of it, the craft.
Yeah.
I don't want to take up all your time, all the rest of your whole night either, though.
No, you're good, buddy. This is fun. So I after college, I moved down because I had nothing going on. My brother came up for my graduation ceremony. He's like, "Why don't you just move down here with me? Like, I'll get you a job." And I was like, "Okay." And so I used a little bit of money that I got from my grandparents after as like a graduation present. Bought a cheap car, moved to Cincinnati, excuse me, and ended up living. I was sleeping on my brother's couch for like a month or so, and his girlfriend was there at the time. And then the place next door came open to rent, and so I just moved right next door to him. And so I lived there for 2 years, and I just working on my degree was in media production and new technology, which is essentially a fancy way to say, here, go work at a radio station or a TV station. The only thing is they're not hiring basically ever, becoming obsolete. So the best job I could get with my new degree was I got a job at Best Buy. And so I worked at Best Buy and I sold TVs for 2 years in Cincinnati. And I was just basically, I mean, I was moving up. I was good at it. It was sales. I'm good at bullshitting people. And so I did well there. I moved up. I was a manager within like a year. And
tell me more about bullshitting people. What is like 3 examples of like how you would bullshit people, like about it, coercing them into buying a TV?
Well, it's all about, for those kind of like those kind of sales jobs, the most important things are top-down selling. So like say some dude walks in and he's just like, I'd really like a TV. And you say, how big do you want one? And he says, I want it to be for my living room, like 55 inches. And you say, great. And then you walk him down to the most expensive TV in that size. And you say, you want this one. And then if he's like, ooh, I don't know, that seems kind of expensive. And you go down one rung and then one rung and then one. You never take them straight to the cheapest thing.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And with those kind of things, and now my day job, I work in restaurants a lot. And that's a lot of like routine in the same kind of way. Like it's all about getting kind of like, almost like in comedy, you memorize what you want to say and how you're going to say it.
So you have a bit of a script. Yeah,
exactly. Like you kind of, just like in comedy, a lot of these sales things is like, I want this guy to buy a speaker. So let's try this sales pitch. And then you throw it at them and they're like, no, fuck you. And you're okay, scratch that one. Let's try it at a different angle. And you just kind of do that. So it's fine tuning in the same way, like going to open mic and stuff, as you take a bit, like an idea, and you're like, well, let's try to make it funny this way. And if that doesn't work, you're like, okay, let's try to come at it from another angle. So it's kind of
multiple scripts. You got like multiple scripts you could lean on. It sounds like in these like different jobs. It's know.
Well, you're constantly testing new scripts. You know
right.
What I mean?
Right.
So I mean it's bull and just being charming and being like ho ho ho, and you have like your dumb like routine jokes. You know what I mean? Like if any kind of just like more thing, like repeated pattern where someone's like, oh, well, I'm an engineer. It's like, okay, well, I have a line for you, engineer. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm a doctor. Like, oh, here's my 2 jokes about doctors, blah, blah. And then they're like, ha, ha, ha. And then they're more likely to buy your shit.
And you weren't even doing comedy at this point. Stand-up.
No, I was not.
Yeah, you were writing for the Best Buy customers, though.
Exactly, yeah. I had thought about it. I remember back then there's a Funny Bone in Cincinnati. There's a club there. It's big. And I remember looking at open mics. I just really didn't have the balls to do it. Um, so it was in the back of my mind basically up until I started. But this was I was only 22 at the time, basically 23. And so I'm doing 2 years at Best Buy, right? And eventually I'm just like, man, I'm tired of this shit. I need something new. And I put that on Facebook, and a buddy of mine from college was like, hey, I'm teaching English in South Korea. You should come do that too. And I said, okay. And so I got certified to teach English as a second language and applied to this spot in Korea to do it. And in the meantime, my buddy Reed, we talked about before from college, he hits me up and he's like, when are you going to Korea? And I was like, well, I'm going in like I think it was like November. And he's like, well, what are you doing until then? This was like probably like March. And I was like, I don't know, just being here and being bored some more. And he's like, you should come to Glacier National Park. So him and his now wife, then girlfriend, they they both went to Glacier together. She hit him up and was like, hey, I'm going to go to Glacier National Park because she's an outdoorsy person, which, if you don't know, is in way up northwest Montana. And it's like the most beautiful place on earth. I love it. And they were like, we're up here. Reed hits him up. He's like, I just did a summer in Glacier National Park. Since you're not doing anything between now and then for the summer, you should come to Montana. And I was like, okay, screw it. And so I dropped all my shit and I moved to Montana. I didn't even know where Glacier was or what it was until I got there, and just picked up with some random job. In the meantime, the Korea gig fell through because they found out about my DUI, and they were like, "You can't work in South Korea," and I was like, "Oh shit." I could work basically anywhere else in the world, but they were like
Forever. Are you on some kind of probation or something? Probably.
No, it wasn't they were just like, we want a background check, and they just don't mess around. You have to
they just didn't choose you. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
They're like, we want someone with a perfect record, and that's not you. You got one little shit stain right here, and that's enough. And
that gets wiped off eventually, though. Eventually, if it's not already.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, I've been to Canada, and you're not supposed to go to Canada if you DUI, so I'm not
ever.
Yeah.
What the hell? That's you can't go there, be there.
The Canadians are dicks.
Yeah, the government, the laws are so insane. Really, like the people.
Oh, it's insane. Talk about like with comedians too. They straight up arrest people for making no jokes and stuff.
Like stage. I'm picturing Jim Morrison, The Doors, performing and like those videos, whatever. If you ever see him getting like cuffed or whatever, like for saying lewd things on stage or whatever.
Really?
I don't know.
I don't think I've seen that video. Was that in the Doors movie? It probably was.
Maybe, yeah.
That's all I know about Jim Morrison is that Val Kilmer does a very good Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
Good movie. But basically I was like, I fell in love with this place, Glacier National Park, but it's only open in the summers because it's under 35 feet of snow up there. It's like a few miles. There was like a 20-minute drive to Canada we were at in Montana, like the top of the Rockies, basically. And everyone there was like, hey, we go to this place called Steamboat Springs in the winter. I like a handful of friends did like, you should come check out Steamboat Springs. I was like, okay. And so I started doing this seasonal thing where I would go to Glacier in the summer and Steamboat Springs in the winter. And I did that for 5 years. And except for 1 year. So there's a girl I was dating at the time who I'd met in Montana. And she was in between her undergrad and her graduate school when I met her. And she's like, I just got into the University of Michigan. And I'm going to move there for like after the one summer. And I was like, cool, I'll go with you. I'll take a Steamboat season off. So I moved to Ann Arbor because it was close to my house. I was always a big Michigan football fan from Ohio. I'm a Trader. It's a big deal down there. And that was where I first did comedy. So I lived there for like, I guess it was probably 8 months, and didn't really like living there. I just got a bullshit job at Verizon and hated it. But I knew there was a comedy club, And so I was like, I'm going to sign up. It was my 29th birthday. I started kind of late. My 29th birthday, uh, I was like, let's go to the comic club. Let's check it out. And I went and I watched an open mic. And it was one of those things where I saw some people doing it. And some of them were so bad that I was like, even if I'm like worst possible scenario for me going up there, I'll at least be better than that guy.
I love that. That's my favorite thing to experience in life is being confidently knowing somebody, is going to be worse than you at the thing that you're about to do and that people just saw them doing.
Yes, confidently knowing that you're better than someone. It's something you've never done. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I did it. I went up and I did it. And it went pretty well. I went pretty well for the first time. And I did it, I think, 2 more times. I got some of my friends at the Verizon store to come watch me the second time. Had a lot of fun. And then I ended up going back to Glacier National Park this summer. I was like, I can't stay here with the girlfriend. I was just like, look, like, I don't want to, like, I can't live here anymore. Like, sorry. And so I left and I went back to back to Glacier. And then the next winter I came back to Steamboat again. And that winter, randomly, this is the birth origin story of Steamboat Comedy. If you hear it on episode 1 of the Steamboat Comedy podcast, there was a Facebook post. A couple of friends of mine decided they're like, let's try to like do a stand-up night. A couple of people who had never done it before. They're like, this would be fun. Let's crash a music open mic and do stand-up. And they put out a page, I think on Facebook, that said like, if anyone wants to try comedy in Steamboat, come check this out. And one of my roommate had known that I had done it before and he'd tagged me in it. And I was like, okay. And so I show up, we crash, and I bring out all my friends because they all knew that I had tried it before. And we went to this bar called the Bra House on the other side of town, which unfortunately just went out of business because of COVID and shit. But did that there, crashed this music open mic. There was about 5 of us, and I went last and did really well. Pretty much crushed it for like a first time too. Now that I've done this enough and I've done really good gigs and done really shitty gigs, you know what I mean? I can confidently say like I pretty much killed it on that set, which is easy to do when you're performing in front of a bunch of your friends.
Yeah, but I was gonna ask like when you're first in early times, that helps when it's obviously supportive people who know you're sort of new at it for sure.
Right. Well, it helped to have my friends, and it also helped because I was the only one other than one other guy who had done it before. And so everybody else had gone up and done okay because they were super new. And then I come up last, having had a set that I'd already worked out a little bit.
You're the headliner.
I was the headliner, yeah. And I just threw it out there and everyone was like, oh my God. And it was awesome. And that was kind of the birth of Steamboat Comedy. And now you can see these are all behind me. These are all the posters of the shows that we do awesome. Produce and stuff. But from there, like it's crazy because I have a weird story where we like the girl Brittany, shout out to Brittany, she basically just started booking us shows when we had no experience. So like me and these 3 other people, we had all done comedy at grand total of, on an average between us, about 4 times, which were, for a lot of those guys, was the 3 open mics that we did here. And then I had done 1 more time, so like 4. And that's it. And we decided to book this bar downtown and do a show for like 60 people, which is insane. And we did it, and it went pretty well. And then we did it again a month later, and it went really shitty. But there's a few of us who were still pretty dedicated, and so we kind of kept it going. And it was really about 6 months to a year in, I'd kind of noticed, I was like, I think I'm a lot more serious about this than everyone else is. And a lot of people were like, like, I got jobs, like I don't have time to do this all the time. And I was like, I have a job too, but like I'm dedicated. Like I'll show up every time. And we started needing stuff, and like we needed a PA, so I just bought a PA. And we needed a microphone, so I just bought a microphone. And at a certain point, I was like, well, I kind of like own this. thing now. Like, I'm just gonna take over. And everyone was pretty much cool with it. And so I formed an LLC and actually started like getting like official accounts and trying to connect with people from out of town. And
Dude, that's
like
awesome.
that.
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I mean, we built it from the ground up. And the one of the big jumping off things for us was my now good buddy Sean Patton. You ever heard of Sean Patton? He's an awesome big time comedian out of New York. He's originally from Louisiana, but he's a New York comedian now. He was coming to town to do a show, not with us, just in the theater downtown. And my roommate was like, "Oh, like this guy's like my favorite comedian. We should text him and see if he wants to do the podcast." And which we were still pretty new on. I think that's like episode like 12 or something like that. But we just sent Sean Patton a message on Instagram like, "Hey, we do a podcast in Steamboat Springs. You want to come do it?" And he was like, "Sure." And we're like, "Okay." And so he just showed up at our house, and we hung out all weekend. We stayed in touch, and then now I've done shows for him twice, and we're doing another show in August. He's been like a huge ambassador of like telling people all around New York and wherever he goes about the Steamboat Springs comedy scene, and so that's been huge in like building up this thing, which has been awesome. And also before that, so I was a big fan of Part of the Problem with Dave and Robbie, and I knew Robbie had mentioned that he liked to ski.
Yeah, Dave Smith and Robbie the Fire Bernstein. Yeah.
Yes, Dave Smith and Robbie the Fire. We were talking, I guess, before we started, but for those who don't know, yeah. Part of the Problem is like a political comedy show, kind of. It's a podcast, and Dave is one of the Legion of Skanks, and then Robbie has his own podcast called Run Your Mouth, which I've been on, I think, 2 or 3 times.
That's cool. I gotta check that out.
Yeah, check that out. We had I remember, I think it was the first conversation we had, and the second one we had there was a lot of fun. I was explaining to Robbie what Skyrim was, which was a blast because he doesn't play video games. But I just messaged Robbie on Facebook, and I was like, "Hey man, do you want to come out here to Colorado and come snow ski and headline a show?" And he was like, "Sure." He's like, "I love skiing." So I was like, "Sick." Which is also, that's my secret how I get comedians out here, is I bribe them with like ski passes and things like that, because I can get them for cheap, and it would normally cost them a lot. Like it works very well. I just had Shane Torres came out and had never skied before, but I got him lessons, and he was hurting, but he was happy to have tried something new. Shane Torres is another awesome comedian out of New York. You might know him. He had a really famous bit on Conan about Guy Fieri that went viral. But anyways, so with Robbie, I called him up and I was like, "Come on to the show." And then he came out here, did a show for us, headlines. And it was his first time headlining like a show like this too. So it was cool for him. It was cool for us to get to meet him. And that also kind of got our foot in the door with like some New York people kind of know about us.
That's great. So it sounds like your show in Steamboat Springs is like, it's like, and the whole comedy scene there, it's like part of the tourism. It's like intertwined with tourism a little bit. Is that kind of like, is that a part of the economy in Steamboat Springs, is skiing and tourism and all that for a small town? Because you guys are not near, I looked at the map, you guys are not really near anything. You're not near Denver. You're not near, I guess, Fort Collins is is that another one? Another fairly large.
I mean, it's about.
You are in Wyoming almost.
Yeah, it's like northwest Colorado.
Right.
And it's, to get to Denver, it's about 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
And even to Fort Collins is about 3 hours. They just opened a new comedy club there, which is cool. I got to go check out this summer. Or like, I guess, no, that was in like February. Yeah, I went down there. They just opened then. But even that's 3 hours to get there. So we're very isolated out here, which is kind of part of the draw. That's part of why it's cool. Like it's a small town, but it's still like big enough. There's like, actual like amenities and things, and like there's a Walmart. It's not like it's super desolate. And so basically the entire economy is a tourist economy. The
Entire
mountains.
economy is tourism. Wow. Okay.
I mean, more or less. I mean, like it's also like a foodie town. You know what I mean? Like there's a big restaurant scene here and stuff, but probably 60-70% of your clientele are tourists who are at your restaurants.
But that's how you're able to sort of keep going with the comedy. And, you're going to use a lot of the same material that I'm sure that works over and over again from week to week or from show to show. And you're able to do that perhaps even in some of at the same shows or venues because the audiences are different all the time because of the tourism thing. So is that part of what I'm figuring out the formula. I'm trying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're not far off. I mean, we do have, there's still like a good amount of people who live here. There's probably like 13,000 people who live here or whatever. I don't know what the exact number is, but and we have like a lot of people who come to a lot of shows and things like that. But it's definitely tourism is part of it. One thing I do to advertise is I make posters and then I'll just go to the concierge at all the big hotels in town. And I'm like, here's a poster. If anyone's asking what they want to do tonight or what they should do tonight, you tell them to come see this comedy show. And they're like, right on, cool. So that's
awesome.
Kind of like an easy boots on the ground way to kind of get that going. And like getting these big names too. And sometimes you get people who come up. There was actually, when Robbie came out, there were people who drove up from Denver who were fans of Part of the Problem to go skiing with Robbie. Which they didn't come to the show, which I thought was kind of weird, but they did drive all the way up here to hang out. So like that kind of stuff is still growing. So we got a good mix of people who are like the town. Everyone here is super supportive of what we're doing, and because they don't get things like this very often. Like comedy is not this whole town before Steamboat Comedy. Like if you wanted to go out and see a show, it was a reggae band or a bluegrass band, and that was it. I don't know why they like reggae here. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know.
Is it like a marijuana growers town or something like that?
Well, I mean, it is Colorado, so there's definitely some of that. A lot of hippies here. The town especially is very blue, which I like a joke I say in my set is it's mixed here because Colorado is generally a redneck state, but it's all a bougie kind of liberal types that are moving in. So like the town inside is super blue, but if you throw a rock outside of city limits, someone will shoot it. It gets it gets that redneck that quick. So it's a weird mix. But I guess what the original point was, I'm lost. But I try a lot, especially for the bigger names, where we're like charging money for people like Sean and Sam Talent and stuff like that. I definitely try to market for tourists for that, people coming into town. And even in the summer, we get a lot of them too. There's a lot to do here in the summer.
That's cool. How long you been doing this show for?
So, I mean, that first infamous open mic where Steamboat Comedy was born, that was January of 2019. So things really started to pick up. Things were really starting to pick up like legitimately right before COVID, which sucked.
Yeah, I imagine so. Yeah,
I was just starting to network with Denver. Like Denver really behind LA and New York has kind of become like the third biggest comedy town.
Really?
Probably more than Chicago. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Why do you say that?
It's just huge. Denver comedy is just huge. Big scene, lots of places doing it. I'm doing 2 shows this weekend in Denver, which I'm pretty stoked about. I don't get a chance to go down there and perform as often as I'd like, just because of the commute. It's such a pain in the ass. If I'm gonna go, I got to do a couple things to make it worth it. It works for me because I was already planning to go down for the Colorado Libertarian Convention. I met Mike Heiss when I did. So that was another thing is with Robbie is.
I was going to kind of ask, like, bring me up to date. Like, how did you get into Dave Smith and Robbie? And you can kind of connect that to doing the shows and then kind of continue on from there. And I don't want to go on forever with you and take up too much of your time.
No, you're good, man. You're good. I keep going off on tangents, which I
No,
guess
you're good. I'm very interested in all of this stuff for sure. Like the the comedy, and the political stuff, like all
yeah.
this stuff for sure.
I mean, it's all definitely interesting how it happened. This is all not like the scene here is so small and there are so few people to rely on.
I love the hustle. I love the entrepreneurial attitude from stand-up comedians. I think I didn't even realize it. Like maybe like how much of that aspect of being, because I'm not a stand-up comedian. I just enjoy comedy and I laugh more out loud at live performances anyway. But just the entrepreneurial, like I see all the producing that goes behind it and the effort and the promotion and the selling and the marketing. It's hard work and I don't want to do any of it. I just want to be an audience member, standing in the back with my drink and making occasional remarks under my breath or whatever, and just enjoying myself. That's me.
Sure. No, it's not. It ain't easy, man. If it was easy, everyone would do it, And we've had, since we've started, we've had some people kind of fall out and stuff, even in this small scene. And it's because it's like, man, it's hard. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I've had some like tough conversations with people at some point. It's like, why am I not getting more stage time? It's like, because you're not putting in the work. Like, you're not getting better. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's clear that you can, you can say, and
with me, it's like the fact that I'm booking these shows and like I started like pretty much the same time a lot of these people do. And
it's your show. You're supposed to do it how you want to do it, man.
Right. But also in order to have people not be like, well, why the fuck is it your call? Like, what do you know? We started at the same time. People see that I'm working my ass off all the time. Like all the other comedians that are here, there's no question that who's putting in the most work, and it's me. And that's kind of where I get like my small bit of like respect from.
Yeah, your credibility.
That's my cred. Yes, that's where my credibility comes from. So so I'm always just trying to work on stuff. I'm always bad about actually forcing myself to sit down and write new material, but I do I keep notes. I have like a Galaxy Note, so if I think of something quick, I'll just like literally write it on my phone, and I have like a page full of shit like that. And I'm just always trying to like actually network with other comedians and be like, hey, let me be on your show. Can I be on your show? Can I be on your podcast? I'm going to this town, this date. Are you going to be there? That kind of thing. And it's really, it's a lot of it is not just what you know, it's who you know. There's a lot of networking.
Sure.
Which is where the Robbie thing comes in. So after that show, after he came out the first time, we were buddies. We were hanging out all weekend and stuff, got along great. And I was staying in touch. I would text him every once in a while about the podcast and shit. And he said he was doing that show in Philly, and which he was like hyping on Part of the Problem and Run Your Mouth for a while. And I was like, man, like I'm going to try to get that weekend off and come down and see you. And he was just like, well, if you come, then I'll give you a spot. I was like, okay. And so I pulled some strings, bought a ticket to Philly. I had a buddy who lived there at the time.
This was pre-COVID. Pre-COVID?
This is mid-COVID.
Mid-COVID. I think I remember that. You guys did like an outdoor. He was doing some outdoor stuff or something like that.
Well, don't tell the cops.
Or maybe not. Whoa! Why do we hate grandma? What? Why do we hate grandma so much?
Yeah, the audience was all grandmas, and we didn't even tell jokes. We just coughed for 2 hours.
Robbie's core audience.
Exactly. He's got a type, and it's gilfs. But so I flew out there and did the show. It was a lot of fun. Robbie basically got me enough money to like cover my airplane ticket. My friend Doc drove me from the airport, so it was just a cool little vacation. Got to kind of meet some cool people. But Mike Heiss was there and a few other people that were big in the Mises Caucus, and we had like an after party, and I was talking with Mike, and I was just like, man, like I want to be involved. Like I'm really into this, like the whole like fucking libertarian scene, and I'm good at talking to people. I've been arguing with my friends for years as one libertarian against like 50 liberal people for the most part, and so my skills are sharp. I got my arguments and stuff, and I was like, I want to be involved. I want to help. And he was like, just get involved with your local Mises Caucus chapter. And I was like, okay. And another guy, Jeff Douglas, was there, a cool dude. And he's kind of like a coordinator of sorts. And he put me in touch with this guy, Mr. Funkhauser, here in Colorado. And so I've been doing, I don't make all of them, but I've been like keeping in touch with them. They have kind of like a Discord group and like Zoom meetings a couple times a month. And they're like, yeah, we all got to come to this. This convention is the big time deal for getting some shit done. So I was like, cool, I'll be there. I'll come show support. And then as soon as I knew I was going to go to Denver for the thing, I started reaching out to different people on Instagram. There were showrunners, and I was like, got room for me? So now I'm doing a guest spot in 2 different shows, one on Friday and one on Saturday this weekend in Denver, while the convention is going on Saturday and Sunday. And I'm hoping I can get some of those guys out to the shows too. I already told them about it to come out and check it out. So should be cool. Looking forward to the hangout. Meeting all these people.
This is this weekend, the Denver convention, and you're going to Denver, and you're doing shows at other shows outside the convention.
Yeah, I'm not performing at this convention. So we did last week. We did Oregon. Me and Robbie did.
Right.
And that was the convention actually. Like, put it out there. Like, we want you to come.
That's great. That's cool. It wasn't a separate Mises thing. It wasn't just a separate thing you guys were doing. They actually kind of like hosted you guys in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was cool. It was after they had like a pavilion in this park at the Cascade Locks, which was beautiful. It was awesome. And they had like speakers all day. I got to see Thaddeus Russell, who's awesome. I don't know if you ever heard of Thaddeus Russell, but
I just saw him speak at the California convention over the weekend.
Did you?
Yeah, that was a wild ride. No, that was fun. He's great. He's interesting and good dude for sure.
Yeah, he's awesome. I've been a fan of his and his podcast for years, and I've got his book. I was sitting right there. I actually brought it to have him sign, and I was all stoked about it. And then I was talking to him after his speech, and he's like, "Well, do you have the book with you?" And I was like, "No, it's in my hotel room." And I was like, "Are you staying for the comedy show?" And he was like, "No." So I was like, "Shit!" So I didn't get my book signed, but I didn't get to say hi to him. He told me he had heard of me, which was probably not true. He was just being nice. But awesome guy, great speech. I was really stoked about that. But then, so this next week is the convention, and then the week after that, I'm doing Childeberg with Robbie too, in Texas. It's gonna be fun.
That's just another liberty-minded libertarian festival kind of.
Yeah, I don't really know a ton of the details, but that's the gist I'm getting. Yeah, is that
you're just like stage time? I'm in libertarian stuff.
Robbie's just like, you want to do a gig, and I'm like, okay, and I'm there, buddy. Let's do it. So why not? Because like this time of year in Steamboat, these ski towns, there's nothing going on anyways. Like I don't even have like a day job at the moment because I basically just work winters and summers, and the in between they call it mud season here. There's not shit going on. So I'm basically just sitting on my hands anyways.
Yeah, and you're able to travel for these shows, and sounds like make at least enough to cover the cost, or at least part of the cost, or the cost and beyond, then some. Like it seems like it's been worth your while to get out there all across the country. Really, it seems like you've hit a bunch of different spots, and you're talking to people in all different cities. And despite COVID and despite geography distances, you seem to be, making it work for you. That's cool. Like I didn't really know that much about you. I knew you had a show in Colorado, and I dug in a little bit, but no, that's great, man. Like, what are tell me more about, where should we go? Tell me more about Robbie. Like, what it's like to just hang out with that dude, and what it's like to listening to his show. What about him?
Sure. Well, Robbie's a nut. Robbie cracks me up. He's borderline neurotic about some things, and he
not a comedian, not a Jewish comedian.
Yeah, not a Jewish New York comedian. Yeah, right. He's very much in that label, and he's too funny, man. Sometimes he just what was it like? We woke up, so we hanging out in Portland, and the next day. We wake up, we just got like a hotel room, and he always is like up like way before me. He gets up super early, and he goes to the store, and he's he buys us both breakfast burgers, like these big fat breakfast burgers. And he's like, oh, but I saw these donuts and they look really good. So I got like 6 donuts. And he opens and there's like these fancy artisan donuts too. And I was like, oh man. And he was like, I'm like looking at the donuts and he's like, man, I felt like I needed to get some spinach to like push all this unhealthy food through. And I was like, yeah, right. You probably should get some spinach. I look over, he's got a box of spinach. He bought a box of raw spinach. So he wakes up just to get breakfast, which like I barely even eat breakfast. I was like, I don't really even want this, but like I feel bad now because you bought it all for me.
Yeah, that's an insane breakfast.
Yeah, two breakfast burgers, like these fancy donuts. Of course, it's Portland, so like donuts and cupcakes and shit. They got to do like it was the one had like Oreos on it and shit like that. And he just takes one, like cuts one piece out of each of them and then shoves a bunch of spinach in his mouth. And then he's like, all right, I'm good. I was like, okay. I was just like, I just need coffee and I'm good to go in the morning, but thank you for all of this. He's a super nice, generous dude. Robbie is. He's always you turn around and he's like, I bought you, like he was constantly like, let me buy this. And I was like, no, dude, I got it. It's fine. And the stories he tells about like working with like Gas Digital and his accounts and stuff and all the things he does there cracks me up too, because he's in sales and he's always telling me like which sponsor is actually a dickhead and which sponsor is like nice guys that you'd want to actually get along with. Yeah,
that's cool. That's good info to know. Don't share with me, but that's cool that you're getting a little bit of the inside baseball of what goes on in the podcasting world, even for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm always interested whenever I'm hanging out with someone from out of town who's from like Denver or New York or LA. I'm always trying to bend their ears about what it's like there, because it's not. It's so weird here for like comedians, and I try to tell these guys like what a lot of people here were like, why are you trying to do stand up in Steamboat Springs? If you want to do well, you got to move to Denver or LA. And I was like, you don't understand this opportunity. Like we're skipping the line. You know what I mean? Like if I went to Denver, I would be in a giant pool with all these people. And I would have to fight and claw my way through this sea of hundreds of people trying to make it. And here, I start on top. I start with the ability to call up Sean Patton and be like, let's hang out.
You're the only game in town in a sense, or the best game in town at the very least.
Absolutely, both. And so like we can kind of make our own destiny here. And it's been really interesting being able to do that. And then like, here too, like God, like my experience is so strange. Probably maybe the 10th time I'd ever done stand-up comedy, which keep in mind a lot of people in Denver do 10 open mics in a week. The 10th time I ever did it, I was headlining the theater downtown in front of a sold-out crowd of about 165 people.
Wow.
Headlining.
How many minutes is that for that crowd?
I mean, that was I only did probably about 15. But because it was a lot of people, just kind of like a lot of like things going on.
Right.
It was a show we did. It was free and everyone was there. And then like, within 6 months of that, I'm headlining a paid sold out show in the same theater with about 160 people doing 15 minutes, 20 minutes. People have to wait years before they get those opportunities. And I got it within a year.
Yeah, you're getting stage time. It sounds like you're finding stage time. You're finding audiences. You're finding your niche as like not just a comedian, but also like business opportunities and what makes sense from that perspective.
Yeah, I mean it's all a whirlwind, man. It's sometimes I can't believe how well it's going. But it's great and it's only getting better. It's especially in the last year. This is all like mostly pre-COVID. But we had a lot of comedians passing through town who just hit me up like, yeah, we Googled that we found out there's comedy in Steamboat. We want to come do an open mic. Like we're here for the weekend. I'm like, oh, let's do it. Like I'm having people like email me audition tapes and things like that.
Dude, that's awesome.
Shows. Like
that's cool.
It's nuts. Yeah.
What is your like either short term or longer term goals for yourself as far as your comedy career and Steamboat Springs as an entity? Is it to have like your own like I don't know. I'll let you I'll let you answer.
Well, the short term goal is I'd like to be able to quit my day job is the short of it, but it's hard because one, this town is really expensive to live in. All these little ski towns, the rent and the amount of people that are moving out here, especially with the online age of work. Like, why would you live in Nebraska and do your job if you could do that same job looking at a mountain here in a snow globe, like you put it? And so there's this town is blowing up, and like even
Damn.
since I've been here in the last 7-8 years, it's like doubled in size, damn near. So it's, and I live right downtown in the thick of the shit with a bunch of my friends from Montana and stuff. So it's not a cheap place to live. So what I'm really trying to expand to do is to have things to do like 5 nights a week. Like, and so we do open mics on Tuesdays. I also now I host adult spelling bees at this place downtown, which is a blast, by the way. It's just like a traditional style spelling bee
With
all
drinking.
the words. Well, the drinking with heavy drinking. It's at the whiskey company, the local whiskey distillery. But all the words are like, like ball sack and like, and like gonads. So it's like dirty words. And I just sit there and moderate it. And they're like, can you use it in a sentence, please? And I'll be like, lick my ball sack. Like I can just say whatever I want.
That sounds fun. I mean?
So it's like an hour.
The event, not licking your ball sack.
Well, I mean, you'd be surprised.
Depends who.
I keep those plums pristine, buddy.
Yeah,
but
I don't doubt that.
When you see how well this mustache is groomed, that's top to bottom, baby.
We got to get back on track.
Oh yeah, right. Off my nuts onto something else. But yeah, the whiskey company, that's a great time because I could just basically, it's like an hour and a half of crowd work for me. I just like make fun of people on the spot and just like sling jokes, and it's awesome. And then we do like once a month, we're doing big ticketed shows through the summer. I want to have that be maybe even twice a month or something like that for next winter. We'll see how it goes now that it's opening up more. But even other places in town, there's like this fancy country club outside of town. They came to one of those things and gave me a card, and they're like, come do events with us. So I'm hosting bingo there now at some point. So I'm trying to find ways to diversify.
You are finding ways. Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, like I've hosted trivia before. So I'd like to make it be like kind of a full service entertainment gig. And so I can just kind of like maybe work part-time during the day just for the cash, doing something chill. And then at night, like 4 or 5 nights a week, have some kind of event that I'm hosting or doing or running or doing a show or something like that. So that's the short-term goal. Long-term goal, I don't know, be Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, just be
with blackface.
Don't do that.
Oh yeah, I've heard that's frowned upon.
You've heard,
but we'll see. I don't know. I'm really just kind of taking it a day at a time. You know what I mean? Like I said, like the main thing for me now is making sure I'm staying busy, trying to diversify, trying to make myself. A lot of it is trying to work on myself and like kind of make myself more diverse. Because I do like I do videos and stuff too. I like a green screen. I have like this computer over here is what I edit everything on. I do all of the, not all the posters, but I do most of the posters. So I like learning Adobe and Premiere, which I did a lot of that in college too. My minor was digital cinema. But that's always changing. So it's tough. Trying to get better like with music and things like that. So I'm trying to like make myself more versatile and make the business more versatile as well is kind of the main short-term goal.
Dude, you are doing it. You are doing many things. And we definitely covered a lot from Ohio to Colorado to college friends to Robbie the Fire and a little bit of everything, mountain towns and snow globes. And it's just something I've noticed that even within the broad liberty movement and within the Mises Caucus, within the Libertarian Party itself, there's bad apples. I probably shouldn't use that term, but like there's that's overused and associated with the police. It's too many memes at this point. But a lot of the people, Robbie included, just good people to be around and know and network with and connect with and be friends with, or acquaintances, whatever the case may be. And the thing that I've sort of noticed about the Mises Caucus and beyond within the movement is that like everyone is from like totally different like backgrounds. Like everyone's from different rural people and suburban people and urban people, and all socioeconomic backgrounds and cultural backgrounds. But something's definitely binding people together. Just the spirit for a more freer, just world.
Liberty, baby. It's the fire of liberty that unites us all together. It's a beautiful thing. And everyone I met at the convention in Oregon, was awesome. Really interesting people. And not just like, everyone jokes that it's like the Libertarian Party is a bunch of like fat old nerdy dudes and stuff. And there's some of that, and that's fine. There's a bunch of fat old nerdy dudes. But also like really cool guys, young people. I was chatting I got to meet this guy, Buck Johnson, runs a really good podcast called Counterflow. And he was a super cool dude. He's going to be at Childeberg too, so it was cool hanging out with him. But even like there's this guy named Ryan I met, and we were just chatting outside, and he's just like a mechanic, but he's like read Foucault and like read like the shit that Thaddeus was talking about, and like all of the same liberty stuff that like
everyone is a thinker and is intellectual.
Yes, yeah, and
everyone, it really is, and it's funny because it's not everyone looks the same or talks the same or acts the same or is interested in the same things outside of political sphere, but everyone is a well thought, as a thoughtful person. It seems like for the most part.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like you have to. So much of the liberty philosophy is built on like having better arguments or going against what most people think. And so if you're gonna do that, you got to be prepared to know your shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that's definitely a common theme, is that everyone that I've talked to, especially Macy's people, just know what the fuck they're talking about. Like they've had these arguments with their friends and relatives probably, and people like that. And so they've had to, just like a comedy bit, they've had to fine tune it. You know what I mean? They've had to really give it some thought and sharpen those edges. And yeah, they're all really cool to talk to. I think so many people, like myself included, are just so relieved to finally meet someone else that like agrees on things that they do, that they're just like, oh my God, it's so nice to meet you. I didn't think there were more of us.
Of course. Makes you feel less alone in the world, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really appreciate the time, for sure. Why don't you tell people again where to find you, where to follow you, and you mentioned a few upcoming shows and things you're working on. I'll kind of give you the floor to give the upcoming schedule and the social media stuff and your podcast and all of that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks. So the thing I update the most is Instagram. My own personal Instagram is look it's Kyle Ruff or something like that. And then at Steamboat Comedy is like the business account. So every time we do open mics or shows and stuff, I always have pictures and things like that on there. And then Facebook, you can follow us there. I have a Twitter. I never use it, but it exists. If you want to, you can find it. For myself and for Steamboat Comedy. It's all at Steamboat Comedy. But then the podcast, Steamboat Comedy Podcast is fun. It's really just a story of kind of like how we've been doing this shit on our own. And it's interesting, especially like, you can go back and listen to it like over a year ago and see how green we were. We're just kind of figuring it out. It's a story of like our journey of trying to figure it out. And we'll do like I'll record open mics and then we'll listen to ourselves on open mics and kind of like talk about what we did well and what we did bad and like how we want to critique it. So if you're
going to be doing that anyway, you're going to be doing that anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a fun little like exercise. It's good for us. And it's cool to listen to if you like the kind of inside baseball aspect. And I've had some cool guests on too. Like Sean Patton's been on twice. Robbie's been on 2 times. Other people just in the Colorado area, like my buddy Mark Masters runs the Vail Comedy Show. My buddy Pat Truer does a show in Breck now. He used to do a lot of stuff in Chicago. But you can find all of that too at steamboatcomedy.com. Has a list of all of our events coming up, including I've got those monthly shows this summer. In June, we're doing a show with my buddy MK Paulson and his friend Simon Gibson, who I'm excited to meet. They're both hilarious guys. They're both on an Amazon show called Inside Jokes. And that's like you said, you're a big comedy fan. If you want to see like a really like inside behind the curtain look at being a comedian, the show Inside Jokes on Amazon Prime is very good. And my buddy MK and Simon, who I'm excited to meet, they're two of the stars of it. And then next month, my friend Sam Talent is coming. I shouldn't say my friend, I've met him once, but he's hilarious. He's really, really funny. He just wrote a novel called Running the Light, which is another, if you want to know more about comedy from like a insider perspective, it's the only it's the only fiction book about comedy, about stand-up comedy really that I know of. It's really good. Doug Stanhope was just talking about it on Rogan when he was on there last. It's an amazing book. He's a really smart, talented guy, Sam Talent, no pun intended. He's coming up in July, and then good friend Sean Patton is coming back in August, and he's going to bring Cypher Sounds with him, who kind of tagged on before. There's a surprise. So Cypher Sounds he was the DJ on the Chappelle Show, and he used to be on Hot 97, which is like one of the biggest hip hop radio talk shows like basically ever for a number of years. And now he's starting to do comedy, and he tours around with Sean a lot, and he's basically got enough money that he's like, fuck it, I'll come to Steamboat, whatever. And so he's just coming. He's gonna do the show too. So that's gonna be a great show. I'm excited.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, and more things to come. Like I said, almost everyone I've asked to do the show has said yes, and it's only getting bigger. And I've got some big things planned down the pipe. One thing I do have for kind of a long-term goal, which I don't like to talk about too much, but I'll tell you because it's a secret and no one's listening.
My mom is.
What's your mom's name?
Marion. She might be. She probably isn't.
Marion. Nice to meet you. And if you tell anyone, I will find you, Marion. But we're doing I'm trying to plan a comedy festival here, and actually have like a weekend and try to bring out a bunch of people from out of town, like big names. I know Sean has said that like a lot of big names like the ski, like even he said Ari Shafir might be in.
Is there an airport in your town that goes from LAX, LA to Steamboat? Or how do people get there?
Hayden Airport is what it's called. It's kind of pricey to fly into, but it's easier than driving for the most part. And it's only about a 30-minute drive from here. Outside of that, you got to go to Denver, and then it's about a 3-hour
drive.
Which if you have the time, though, it's a beautiful drive. But if you'd rather just come up, and in the winter and stuff too, which is when I'm planning to do this, they do a lot of cheap flight deals in the Hayden to try to get just more people in, more tourists, and they have like package deals and things like that. So stay tuned. I got a lot of kinks I got to work out before I can make that happen. But the goal is to make that happen. There's another big time Denver comedian named Adam Caton Holland, who is hilarious. He had a TV show called Those Who Can't for a little bit. And he helps run the High Plains Comedy Festival in Denver, which is one of the bigger ones in the country. And I've met him before, and I've talked to him, and I was kind of like, "Can you give me advice on how to do this?" And he's like, "Yeah, whenever you want." I'm like, "Right on." So, I'm hoping to bend his ear more, and then kind of get some of the blueprints laid and make it happen. So,
dude,
we'll see.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you're doing it. That's all amazing stuff, inspiring. I'm exhausted hearing all the things that you're working on. It's I don't know how you found all the time in the day to do all that, but it's all, you have your checklist, you're getting through it. I'm looking forward to following this, and maybe I'll have to come out there to see a show or get you out here to LA at some point to do some shows. There's a little bit of a comedy scene in Los Angeles, I believe.
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah,
Going on.
of course. But again, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. So much fun. And let's talk soon.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you got it, Kyle. Later.
Yeah.
So there you have it. My conversation with Kyle Ruff. That was fun. I really thank Kyle for his time, and I'm truly inspired by his hard work and entrepreneurial pursuits. Plus, he's funny. But anyway, for everything about this show, of course, head to peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's at People We Love Podcast on Instagram. And I am at Adam Choid on Instagram and Twitter. And I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate you guys listening. Thanks as always, and let's talk soon. Peace.